Hello everyone, it's Beppo, here to answer the question that no sane person would ask. Can you beat Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 using only Stone Bullet? Before we begin, I'd like to clarify some things. 1. I'll be using Beppo for this challenge, as I'm 99% sure this is impossible with a new character. 2. I'll only be tackling the base game story, no DLCs. And 3. While I can only damage people with Stone Bullet, I can use other non-damaging abilities, such as poses. And with that out of the way, let my hell begin. First up, as always, is Raditz, a good starting point to see how much pain I'll be in. And needless to say, my damage output is really pathetic. Even for this first mission, it still takes a couple super attacks to kill him. Although, it's not exactly hard, because the AI mostly just stands there and lets you win for these first couple of missions. The next Saiyan we fight is Nappa, and once again, this mission is a piece of cake, since we have many CPU allies for Nappa to focus on instead of us. CPU allies will be a big part in this run, as they let me pelt the enemy with rocks without much issue, or have time to power myself up. For now, we just have to wait until Nappa's health gets whittled down, and wait for people to finish talking so we can move along. And after Beppo decides to take a really quick nap, it's time to find Goku. And what luck, Beppo found not one, but two Goku. One of them is Goku's edgy Smash Bros. Palace swap though, so Beppo will have to destroy them for that. As it turns out though, it's not Goku, it's Turles, and he offers Beppo the good life. Beppo refuses however, as he already eats good food and destroys whatever he likes. Since Turles tried to trick Beppo with lies and deceit, Beppo will trick him with rocks and stones. It goes so well, Beppo can take 2 naps before moving on to the other Saiyans. Two Nappas later, and it's time to face Naps, and he's more bald than ever. However, bald people are weak to rocks, so Beppo can easily take him down before moving on to Vegeta. Beppo decides to give Goku some health so he won't die right away, before moving on to chucking stones at the Prince of all Saiyans. The power of rocks would make Vegeta's technique even stronger than ever before, allowing Beppo to defeat Vegeta once and for all. Did I say once and for all? Just kidding. Vegeta has a monkey form now, along with Nappa. And with their new size and lack of baldness, it would take Beppo longer to put Nappa down. But he would pull through in the end. Beppo now just has to take down Vegeta. And while things were going well at first, Vegeta had a nasty trick. He copied Beppo and started throwing rocks too. But Beppo would prove time and time again that his rocks were superior. And so, with the combined might of Beppo's rocks and the 3 idiot people there attacking Vegeta, they would take him down. Next up is this beautiful sight, one that fills Beppo with rage, so he tosses rocks as he always does, until Dodoria runs away in fear. This just leaves Zarbon to take down, and he says some very hurtful things to Beppo. Just when he thinks his problems are over though, Slug appears, and he and Beppo would never get along anyway. After tossing enough rocks though, Trunks will interfere and scare Slug away.
Attention all
With Slug distracted, it's time for Beppo to go and deal with Dodoria the same way he's battled before, and will battle afterwards. Even with Dodoria not having a max size bar of health, the low damage Beppo does makes this take quite a while. But, with a well placed rock to the face, Dodoria would die. The Ginyu Force is up next, and Beppo decides to take Goldo down first, as he's quite short, and therefore harder to hit with the stones. Despite Goldo's insistence that he will not lose, he would still fall to a child. After Goldo got a solid thrashing, Recoome was the only enemy left, and he already took Vegeta out. Recoome had his priorities in order at least, expressing worry that their pose wouldn't be the same without Goldo. Beppo bonked him on the head for not even considering inviting Beppo to the Force. Jace wasn't able to process Recoome being defeated by a fat man with some pebbles, nor did he realize that he'd share the same fate. Goku and Vegeta were there too, I guess, but they didn't do much aside from keeping Birder or Jace busy for a time. Since Jace wasn't locked on to Beppo, you can only assume that he called Goku or Vegeta a blob. Not wasn't called for. While this happened, Goku tells his useless son and friend to beat it, so he can have the spotlight. But we all know Beppo is really doing the work here. Beppo wasn't in the clear yet though, as Turles would show up and give Burter and Jace more power than ever before. I think it's odd that they called Fruit of the Tree of Might holy, when it grows from a tree that kills planets. What do I know? Either way, the fruit wasn't enough to save them from Beppo's rock-induced wrath. Beppo would be even more upset, as it seems they didn't invite Trunks to the Ginyu Force before him. In a fit of anger, he hurls stone after stone at Trunks, not caring whether it's really Captain Ginyu or not. If Jace, a useless fool who deserts his post during a pose, can be a member, Beppo 100% should be too. Beppo would then defeat Jace so he can take his number 2 spot. Then, he just has to hand in his many resume rocks to Captain Ginyu to see if he gets accepted. Sadly, Beppo would be turned down on the account of killing every single other member of the Force, so he decides to take Ginyu down instead. Just as he's about to complete his task, Turles interferes again, giving Ginyu a chance to become the main character for a bit. Beppo refuses to let that stand, defeating Turles before moving on to Goku, as his pockets were still packed to the brim with rocks to throw. Beppo was then asked to buy some time, but Beppo doesn't have any money. Luckily, Nail arrived to bail him out, so the two tag-team Frieza for all the tantalizing time they'd need. The pair made an excellent team, keeping Frieza at bay as long as they'd need to. Sadly though, Nail would perish in battle, due to being close to Beppo for an extended period. Turles and Slug then committed the worst crime imaginable by eating Beppo's fruit, so he threw rocks at them as hard as he could. Gohan tried to threaten Turles, but he wasn't nearly as scary as Beppo, so it didn't do anything. And after Slug says the best line ever, Gohan would flee, leaving Beppo all by himself. But the fruit gave Turles and Slug a tummy ache, so Beppo could win. Still wasn't easy, since Slug used the ability of moving to the side a little, but he would pull through in the end. Toa would arrive to meddle in Beppo's affairs and power Turles and Slug up even more, making the power flow into them. Yeah! Wasn't close to Beppo's power though. It's strange that Turles says he'll go after Toa when they're a few feet away, but Turles was dumb for facing Beppo anyways, so the bar isn't very high. Trunks would swoop in to help them too, allowing Beppo to take Turles on one-on-one. Even with his boosted might, he wouldn't be able to stop Beppo and his many stones. Beppo then gives Trunks some healing, so they can keep fighting, before the two overpower Slug with combo attacks. Swords and stones together, it was a match too much for Slug to handle. All those rocks to the head would eventually make him completely miss Trunks with a grab. Although, he would catch them later on, since Trunks isn't very smart at all. Trunks' sacrifice wasn't in vain, however, as it left Slug completely open to a killing rock barrage. I'm sorry to say, but this scene here means I've already failed the challenge. But I'll still go through the rest of the game anyways, for your amusement and my suffering. Now it's time for Beppo and the gang to take on Frieza, and he's up to more of his dastardly tricks, throwing even bigger rocks than Beppo could in an attempt to take that stubborn guy Vegeta down. Beppo's rocks and Vegeta's ki spam would keep Frieza at bay for a time, but eventually, Vegeta would get bitch slapped in the next week, with Beppo all on his own. Wait, what happened to everybody else? They didn't die like Vegeta, why didn't they help me? Useless assholes. Well, anyway, after the two tossed rocks for a while, Goku would arrive to help Beppo out. With Pajama Sam unseen, it would be easy for Beppo to sling stones at the Galactic Tyrant. Vegeta talked about some dumb Saiyan nonsense, but Beppo wasn't paying attention, so it probably wasn't important. Beppo would start to get annoyed, as Frieza kept copying his rock-throwing move, and I guess it made Goku pretty angry too, as he vowed to defeat Frieza. Stones and boulders flew through the air, Goku charged up his technique that always works, the Spirit Bomb. And once ready, he'd give it a good throw at Frieza. It would definitely stop him, right? It didn't stop him. And that pissed Goku off. Beppo had some time to cool off though. Now throwing rocks, clear mind. Gohan and the gang did what they did best and ran away, leaving Beppo and Goku to fight Frieza on their lonesome. Beppo would stop Frieza's first try to blow the planet up with a couple rocks, although he was too slow, so he wouldn't be successful the second go around. It's okay though, Frieza wasn't successful either, being bullied by enemies and family alike for it. Oh yeah, and Cooler is here. As I'm sure you know, this mission has a huge spike in difficulty, and it really shows with this challenge. The AI is better and stronger, with some good spammy supers to boot. And this was just the intro phase. Now the pair reach their maximum power, eager to rip Beppo and Goku to pieces. And while that wouldn't do anything to Beppo, Goku is sadly necessary for history to go right, so Beppo will have to save them. Things start to go poorly for Beppo, however, as his super armor runs out, hit over and over again with combos and death beams, while he struggles to do even passable damage. The fight was long and grueling, some of the worst in this challenge, with some rocks going right over Frieza, letting them block or attack Beppo, which was not helping at all. The even more negligible damage, combined with a lack of breathing room, pushed Beppo to his limits, even making him use a capsule just to survive, something I plan to not do again in this challenge. The burst of health regeneration helped Beppo survive long enough to slowly bring Frieza's health down. And while it went as well as it could for a time, eventually Frieza would switch to fighting Goku, leaving Beppo to fight a more healthy opponent, Cooler. Cooler was larger, and therefore easier to hit with the stones, but had much better basic combos than Frieza, making it difficult to get in as many rocks as I would have liked. Luckily, or maybe unluckily, Frieza would get back to fighting Beppo soon, though this would give Cooler time to take on the already weakened Goku, and eventually bring him down. Luckily, this won't fail the quest, but Beppo still has to fight them both alone. Frieza had very low health from the beatdown he took from Beppo, making their defeat relatively swift, and Cooler eventually meets the same fate too, falling into the core of the planet. This just leaves Frieza to face down, but he gets so angry that Beppo would run off, not wanting to deal with any of that. Next up, it's Stone Age versus the future, Beppo having to take on some filthy android scum with Piccolo. 17's barrier would be no match for Beppo's rocks, making them easy pickings. Beppo wanted to tell 17 where Goku was to end this faster, but he couldn't, so he just takes a nap instead, or giving 17 some more cool rocks that he found. Somebody else would want those neat rocks too, and it was Cell. He planned to absorb 17 and 18 to steal their rocks. Piccolo would try and stop them, but he died and then got blasted in the chest. Ouch. Robots and rocks teamed up for a time, beating the shit out of Cell. It was a great time. Beppo would even try and heal his friends, Cell dropping 17 right in that area like an idiot, before he'd get beat up some more. 16 would join in on the good times too, although Cell would decide to blast a hole in him, which was really uncalled for. It's not like we ever did anything bad to him. Soon enough though, Cell was beaten, and Beppo could leave, because he had more android scum to take care of. And this one was Mira, Toa's edgy DeviantArt OC, original character, do not steal. Mira was powerful, but Beppo and Trunks' teamwork proved too much for them to handle. It wouldn't all be sunshine and rainbows though, as Mira laughed at Beppo before not even letting him heal Trunks. Beppo's getting really tired of this shit, but luckily, Toa appeared to take Mira away. Trunks would then be nominated for the best reaction time ever, where Beppo has to partake in his favorite pastime, beating children. Most of the Cell game segment is just tedious beat up waves of weak opponents, which is boring, since that's just every day of Beppo's life. I feel like this is the weakest segment of the story, compared to how Xenoverse 1 did it especially. And now it's time for Gohan.
Wake up! Wake up!
For some reason the game says Cell Juniors weren't around at this point, but Gohan absolutely kills them all at this point in the show, so I don't get it. In the end though, it's just more busy work for Beppo, until the real busy work arrives, in the form of metal coolers. These guys are flimsy, with Raditz level health, making it an easy task to beat them, even with just some rocks. I'd say it's weird metal coolers are weaker than Cell Juniors in the story mode, but considering Cooler could be beaten by a Super Saiyan, and the Cell Juniors are apparently close to Cell in power, it makes sense. Beppo fights with more coolers on Namek, and it's just as easy as before, most of them standing perfectly still and accepting their demise. Man, Cooler's gotta be some kinda masochist if he lets himself die over and over. I think that's his thing. Regardless, Trunks would appear later to help slice through all the paper coolers. And with two people doing the killing, the coolers stood even less of a chance than they did before. I also learned something from this mission. If you're on the ground, you throw your rocks a little lower. I will be using this to have all my stones land when I can. And so, with a little more work, all the coolers are finally gone, and it's time to face Cell. This fight was hell to get through for one reason. Teen Gohan was utterly useless. He did next to no damage and died very easily, and it didn't help that he hardly attacked Cell at all. Right here, for example, he just lets Cell shoot him with a Kamehameha and dies. Beppo just didn't have the tools to take on Cell all by himself, with how much health he had. For every stone he landed on Cell, Cell would get 5 different attacks in. Not to say effort wasn't put in. I did try. I really did. But I just couldn't do it with Gohan dying as fast as he did. With my promise to not use capsules anymore, I would fail the first try. And then Gohan would die. And then I would die. And then Gohan died. And then he died again. And despite getting very close to beating Cell, I would die again. Eventually, I got lucky, getting Cell's health down enough that despite Gohan dying, I could finish the job with rocks. And despite Gohan stealing my kill here, I was just happy to see Cell get wiped out for good, so I'd never have to fight him like this ever again. My android problems weren't over yet though, as 16 would appear to kill Goku's son. Being the tall guy he was though, it was easy to keep him stunned with rocks while Gohan gave him the beatdown. After a good while of punching and stoning, Android 16 would fall, hopefully ending our android problems. However, that wouldn't be the case, as the Edgelord himself, Mira, would appear, hungry for a fight. The game says we don't stand a chance, and with my kit, frankly, I believe it. We need one more guy here to spam supers on Mira, and who better than our boy, Trunks.
Attention, all proud
Sure,
warriors.
he isn't supposed to be here, and could be doing irreparable damage to the timeline, but it's worth it in the end. Probably. Mira would toss out powerful attacks, but Beppo keeps his team alive with the Energy Zone. And with their efforts combined, eventually, they could push Mira into retreating. And when I say eventually, I mean eventually.
Lastly, any alteration of history is a grave offense.
After all those androids, Beppo needed a palate cleanser. What better than yet another android? Wait, hold on. He had Trunks there to spam burning attack though, so it wouldn't be too bad. After bringing that pushover, 16's health down, Beppo's archenemy of the run returns, eager to make a mess of things once more. However, unlike last time, Beppo had an actually useful teammate, so Cell was done for. Somehow 16 got all his health back from standing still for a few seconds, so Beppo had to take them down again. He was easy as ever to defeat. Easy being a relative term, of course, since my only attack was really bad. Regardless though, Cell would be up for the chopping block next, and with Trunks and my spam combined, Cell stood no chance. He even had the balls to call Trunks an amateur, despite getting his perfect ass handed to him, and sadly, Beppo would get his Cell kill stolen again. Now we take a jarring jump forward in history, having to stop Broly from killing his ex-husband Goku. He was a super tall opponent though, and you know how much I like those in this run. He was one of the few opponents I could hit a full rock barrage on from anywhere, and even charge up rocks in the attack. Eventually though, Buu would arrive, but Beppo still has to take Broly out of the picture. It would be easier than most fights, and Beppo can do full damage, but it's still very, very time consuming. Broly would be in the contender for the best line ever, but it wouldn't be enough to save him from Beppo's rocks. After Beppo takes a quick nap, he'd go to help Vegeta take Buu on. Prince of All Spam did his job well, before telling Beppo to beat it so he can kill himself. Beppo was then called by the promise of snacks, but Super Buu was trying to eat them all before Beppo got any. Beppo wouldn't stand for that, tossing rocks harder than he ever has before. He even had the power of donuts on his side, which was very good. Beppo just had to keep Buu away from the snacks a little longer until Gohan would arrive. Hopefully he'll be less useless than last time. Somehow Buu got all the way down to the ground, and now Gohan is here to help. Beppo would kick back and throw rocks at Buu to make him angrier, because he deserves it for trying to take Beppo's snacks. Just when things were going well for Beppo though, Broly would return, covered in a layer of metallic paint. He was still a tall character though, so Beppo could bully him with stones as per usual. It did about as much damage as actually saying mean things to Broly though, so this would take a while. Luckily though, he liked to spam slow ultimates, so that gave Beppo chances for free rock damage, eventually leading to Broly's death. Sadly though, Gohan was already dead too, keeping up his legacy of being useless, meaning Beppo had to do all the work as usual. Now Beppo had to fight Janemba. At first he's all by himself, which isn't so bad since Janemba's a slow character with low damage. But Beppo was allergic to swords though, so he'd need some assistance in his fight. And that help would soon arrive in the form of Vegeta. Vegeta was very angry at how not right this was. No Goku to fight with, and he wasn't even a Super Saiyan. What gives? It wouldn't matter though, as the two would still defeat Janemba just like old times, with rocks and key spam. And after this, Vegeta would somehow kill Janemba in his base form. We don't talk about it. And speaking of Vegeta, it was time to battle Buu. Vegeta is somehow even more worthless than Teen Gohan, doing as much damage as I would while dying in 3 hits. He even makes the same mistake as Teen Gohan by letting his opponent hit him with an ultimate attack. Twice! Despite my best efforts, my current build just wasn't enough to defeat Majin Buu, since my only allies were a glass Vegeta and a statue Goku. After getting beaten around by Buu for a while, I decided to change my plan. I'd use a Super Armor build so I could outlast Buu and defeat them one day. With Fighting Pose K and the Fruit of the Tree Might to extend it, Beppo was ready to go. He'd sling stones and eat fruit to his heart's content. And while Vegeta tried to help, he did next to nothing this fight, soon perishing just like he did before, to a vanishing ball. Now it was up to Beppo to ever so slowly kill Majin Buu. Safe to say, this build turns future fights into a giant waiting game, since I cannot be staggered, but my attacks are still garbage. It was the only way I'd get past this challenge though, with allies like this Vegeta. Goku would then steal my kill. And to top this off, I've got some bad news. Xenoverse doesn't let me record fights once you hit the Beerus stuff. I don't know why, I just know it's dumb and I hate it. To prove I did the full challenge though, I took screenshots periodically. I ended up swapping fruit for formation, but the build stayed the same in every other way. So in the end, how did I feel about this? It wasn't fun. Fights took ages, and I didn't like having to rely on armor to win, but it needed to be done for the late stages. I do not recommend this challenge to anybody, especially if they want to try it with a fresh character. If you do somehow do it, hats off to you, you psychopath. I wouldn't recommend having a tall character like mine, so your rocks all land regardless, in case you really want to do this challenge for some reason. With these last few pictures though, the game is done. And yes, you can beat Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 using only Stone Bullet. And with that, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and if you have any other ideas for challenges, leave them below. I might pick one up in the future.